What's up, everybody? What's up? Hello and welcome back to this little show here. We are back with Vinland Saga, episode 16 and maybe hopefully 17. I think 2 episodes apiece are always great on Patreon. It might be split. I don't care. Let's get into it, right? Ragnar died last time, very sad, but also very needed, I think, for the development of Canute. We'll see how this one continues, what exactly Aselat's plans are, because on the one hand, we kind of know the general direction he's going into, at least what he stated. On the other hand, we don't know everything that's going on, so it could be anything, really. It could be that he's lying to the Walish people as well as to us, so not Walish, Welsh, sorry, the Welsh people, as well as to us. But it could also be that he's being genuine there, and that at least most of his motivations on that he displayed and that he actually brought out are true. And then we need to assume that he's playing the Danish people, playing the Vikings, and he is probably also playing the English, because the Welsh are not the English, and there's still some infighting going on there. I do also, we do know obviously that it's not just the Saxons, it's the Franks as well. So there's a lot of parties involved that are kind of vying for power, and obviously there's our personal parties as well. We got Thorfinn as part of Aselat's troop. We got Aselat and his larger troop and his goals and his plans, and we do of course also have Aselat's men, who are not equal to what Aselat maybe wants, but follow him because he's a great leader. Then there's the Danish king. Then there's Canute's kind of splinter group as one of the main characters. And then there's, of course, Thorkel, who we've met quite a couple of episodes ago, and he is in hot pursuit because he does know where Aselat is. We are snowed in right now, and we're making our way through this winter and through these regions in order to, I don't know, where are we going? I don't remember exactly. We do have the bargaining chip with Canute. So let's get our asses into this, right? Vinland Saga, Season 1, Episode 16 is right here and ready to go. We do have the rough, obscured version of this episode right here with like cuts and edits and all of that. Not that much, because thankfully the publisher actually allows some amount of showing the footage. But we also have the picture-in-picture version if you want to see that right there on Patreon. Go check that out. We are already probably 1 or 2 episodes ahead on Patreon as well. That's always the case. So go check that out if that's something of interest to you. There's also other shows on there, so go take a peek. Other than that, I would really appreciate it if, after you've watched this, no matter when you tune in or out, you could like the video and you could subscribe to the channel for more. So let's jump right into it. Right, it's the dead of night. Delicious. What happened to you? Was it like, were those the villagers? I don't think so, right? Maybe they were.
イングランド兵数人を相手に獅子奮陣のご活躍でしたが、背後からの槍にあえなく。
Does Canute buy it? And does Thorfinn buy it? That's the question. Because I would maybe think. Yeah, this is. His legs giving out.
すぐに出発します。ご用意を。トルフィー、絶対におそばを離れるんだよ。あ？冗談じゃねえ。やだぜ俺は。待ておいてめえ。殿下の親はお前の仕事だろう。仕
I can't imagine how that feels. Losing somewhat of your, like, you're basically your only ally in the whole world. The only person who maybe understood you to a degree. Because that's what he was to him, right? It's a strange feeling, I think, to lose somebody. I think the tone of this OP doesn't really fit what I'm trying to convey here, so maybe we talk about it afterwards. But losing someone is a strange feeling, because it's not as straightforward as you would expect it to be. I can imagine quite a bit of derealization going on Canut's part. Shock, derealization, guilt. He might be blaming himself, depending on what he thinks about it. I still wonder what Canute and Asalat disappearing in front of Thorfinn's eyes does mean, symbolically.
でけえ声で話すな。手下どものほとんどは事情を知らん。やったのはあくまでもイングランド兵だ。ボロを出すなよ。どうかね。あんたラグナルとは反りが合わなかったからな。いくらヘタレでも気づくんじゃねえの。証拠がなければいいのよ。王子がヘタレなのはラグナルが甘やかすからだ。適当なところで消えてもらわにゃ俺が困る。ヘタレ結構じゃんか。扱いやすいぜ。王子を足がかりに出世するのにもってこいだ。
Yeah, but it's not easy if you actually want him to achieve something. Or need him to achieve something.
そりゃ、まあ、俺がついて行きたかったからだよ。俺もさ。俺も俺の主を選ぶ。俺の主は俺がついて行きたくなるような男であるべきだ。なんてな。博打だよ、ビョルン。うまくすりゃ、あの王子様は生まれ変わるかもしれん。うまくいかなかったらどうするよ。やろう。
That is a big gamble, though.
立ち直らんかもしれねえぜ。そん時は見捨てるさ。俺の主の仕方。
We use him. Hmm.
どうだなんか喋りそうかムカつくぜこの野郎悲鳴一つあげやがらねえ一丁前に殉教者気取ってやがるこれだからキリスト教徒は嫌いなんだおめえの蹴りがぬるいんだよ俺が手本見せたら蹴りってのはな
I'm sure kicking him more will get something out of him.
見事おめえこそ塗りよ顎から行けよ待て待て次は俺だやめやめたくも手加減しなさいよ君たち殺しまったら何も聞き出せないでしょ殺すがいい死は全てを見ておられる貴様らでエンジンの悪行の数々をまだ元気じゃんハサミある探してこいハサミね
actual torture. Okay.
さて繰り返すぜイングランドの隊長さん聞きたいことは3つ援軍の規模とそれらがここに到着するまでの時間それと俺たちの存在をどうやって知ったかだ話せば助かってやろうけだものめ
I don't think he expects to live. The thing is, how long will the pain go on?
待っているぞよハサミってこれでいいか隊長さんあんた爪伸びてんな不衛生だ少し切った方がいいあごめん深爪しちゃった抑えてろ聞きたいことは3つだ以下略
Oh, this is tough.
しかも2回
The thing is,
えげつね
何頑張ってんだあの野郎。
地獄に落ちろ天神ども
he already he already survived a few. The question is if he will even talk.
俺の村も貴様らに焼かれた妻も娘もなぶられて殺されたけだものめここは俺たちの土地だってでけああそう僕たちけだものですか無知なお前たちに一つ歴史を教えてやろうありがたく聞けよサクソン人いやこの辺りの住人はアングル人かまあどっちでも同じかこの土地はもともとはお前らのものじゃないんだよ最初の住人はケルト人だ
I mean, he's not
ここ
wrong.
に暮らし精霊を崇めていた今のウェールズの民の先祖だやがてローマ人がやってきた彼らは支配者だったがケルト人と共にこの地に暮らし知恵と技術と文化を授けた
Hmm.
ローマ人が去り
I mean, they conquered too,
お
so.
前たちアングル人とサクソン人がやってきた500年ほど前のことだお前たちはケルト人に何ももたらさなかったそれどころかケルト人を荒れ地へ追い出してこの豊かな平原を独占したんだ嘘だ嘘じゃねえよデン人がケダモノだったなら
History as old as
お前アン
time.
グロサクソンも相当ケダモノなんだぜお前たちは暴力でこの地を奪った
We're the same, you and
俺
I.
たちデン人はお前ら以上の暴力でこの地を奪うまさか文句はあるめえな黙れ蛮族どもの
Oh, the imagery is crazy.
人の話を聞かない子は先生嫌いだなおや隊長さんあんたの顔ってよーく見ると鼻も伸びてるな
It's gonna be painful.
何人だ耳わからんだがおい
南から来る。敵の増援か。え、真夜中だぜ。
イングランド人が野襲とは恐れ入ったぜ来たがもう遅いぞ貴様らは死ね電人同士で共食いし合うがいい電人教えてやる来るのはトルケルだ相手に不足がなかろうトルケルだ
トルケルだと。どうすんだよ。
おいトルケルって言ったかさあ言ったような気も本当だったらまずいんじゃない
They're all. Okay, you need to rally them. He needs to rally them. He's worried too, but.
マジかよ
トルケルが来るぞ。
あの村か
みたいっすね。
よし囲むぞファーリとインゴルブの隊は左オットルは右だ俺は真ん中ね基本的には皆殺し王子は殺すなよあとナイフ
This mountain of a man.
そいつも殺すな
He's mine. Yes, of course he is. Nice shot.
ナグナルをこんなところに置いていけるかナグナルと一緒じゃなきゃ僕は行かないぞ
お諦めください殿下ソリは3台死体を積み込む余裕はございません
ならば葬儀をせよ戦士の死に敬意を払え命令だ
時間的余裕もございません
貴様嫌だ僕は行かないぞナグナルナグナル
ラグナルは死んだ もう呼んでも来ねえ。
貴様。
アチュラット脱走者だ。トルケルに下る気だぜ。こいつら根わらに隠れていやがった。ラグナルの言う通りだ。あんた今
I mean,
気がない。俺たちだけじゃねえ。みんな内心やべえと思う。
he's gonna kill them. He needs to.
ばかりはいけねえ。だってあんた今トルケルに食いつかれちまってんだぜ。
勝手に行けよ。いいかお前ら。
No, he's not.
狩猟につけ。去る者は去れ。俺は咎めねえ。俺と共に来るやつは歩け。
Ah, okay, yeah.
歩ける。
Not through fear,
歩き。眠りながら
but through charisma.
いいか
I get it.
ついてこれなきゃ死ぬと思え。
The landscapes are so gorgeous. And he is so scary. At halftime. Oh, holy fuck. He's slicing and dicing. He doesn't even. He's like, whatever, dude. I'm just here for the prince.
連中だいぶ動揺してるってことだな。ああ、かわいそう。仲間に入れてやればいいのに。いいんだよ。こいつらクズだ。戦いの指令で降参するような臆病者。
Yeah, because they would betray him too. Yeah. That's not. That's smart, actually.
右に寄ってる。ああ、戻せ。あ、違う。俺から見て右だ。そうそう、そのまま。ゆっくり。よいしょ。早く行け。後ろ使えてんぞ。
プログリム、アトリー、来い。この橋を壊す。お前らが指揮を取れ。急げよ。
足をばらすぞ。斧を持ってるやつは手伝え。
Closing off the road behind you.
トルケルは近いか。耳よ。
うるさくてわからねえが、橋を壊す時間ぐらいはあるかもな。
The wine is going empty.
おい、こらこらこらこら、ボスてめえ、何してくれてんだいきなり。酒ありませんか。あってもおめえにはやらねえよ。俺らだって満足に飲めてねえんだぜ。おめえの分なんかねえよ。今がピンチだってこと分かれよ、坊さんよ。
What's going on inside of you?
いやー、相当ちべてえぞこれ。
Oh, that was a great transition.
この川歩いて渡れるじゃねえか。橋落とす意味あんのか。
だからって放っとくわけにもいくめえ。嫌がらせぐらいにゃなるかもな。
ご自慢の知略もネタ切れか。アシェラットの旦那よ。
They're all starting to doubt him.
ビョルン、トルフィン。
どうした？
ヨレ。
なんだよ。
ビョルン、王子をこっちの二頭立てに移せ。御者はお前だ。トルフィンは王子と一緒に乗って待機してろ。
は？何を？
あ
おい、アシュラッド、マジか。
俺の特技だ。
Does he want to keep them occupied?
パッと面見りゃ大体
What is he doing?
大物か小物か利口かバカか、忠義者の中に裏切り者が混じってるのもわかるのさ。
あ？王子を奪うって何じゃ。
So he can smell the suspicious activity.
この兵団はもうおしまいだ。
Mm.
王子を手土産にトルケル軍に入ろうや。他の奴らも半数以上がこっち側だ。残りの半数ともすぐに話がつく。
He would be killed anyway with Thorkel's idea. But yeah, they don't know that.
アシェラット。裏切るって言い方は人聞き悪いぜ、アトリー。あいつはいい狩猟だ。よくやってるよ。
You gotta sell it to him, frame it differently.
狩猟として責任を取ってもらうんで。
大丈夫だよ。逃げ切れるって兄じゃ。今までもそうだったろ？
今まではな。だがここ最近のやつはどうだ。立て続けに読みを外してる。月が落ちてんだよ。巻いたはずのトルケルにも見っこっちまったじゃねえか。
I mean, it looks like that, but maybe they're not, right? Like they're on the run, but what he's planned is partially always working out.
なのにどうしてトルケルなんぞに手を出したかな。
兄じゃ。
俺だって残念なんだぜ。
They're all so afraid of Thorkel.
アシェラッドは博打を打って負けたんだ。ただそう。
And they're hurting bad, right? Like with the winter and the low rations.
上出来上出来。これで連中も2のソリを渡すのに手間取るだろう。
身を捨てて追ってきたらどうする？
そうしたら食料の調達に時間を食う。飯も食わずに長距離は追ってこれんさ。
It will cost them time, that's the main thing. But the schemers be scheming and Asalad knows, so he's like, when the moment comes, they're gonna get the prince out.
ああ、光った。
What's happening? Why is there so many? Oh. So they're very, like, there's a large force. I didn't think they were as large as I thought, as that. Oh, is he gonna reach? He actually is gonna reach. That is crazy.
いっぺんに4人だ。やべえ。やべえ。マジでやべえ。
落ち着け野郎ども。まだ距離はある。橋も落とした。今の槍は忘れろ。
橋？橋が何だってんだよ。そこの川歩いて渡れるぜ。気休めにもならねえ。
そう思うか。そう思うなら今すぐ出発だ。時間が惜しい。
またかよ。行軍行軍行軍って他に言葉を知らねえのか。あんたはよ。
トルケルには勝てん。あと1日辛抱しろ。橋を壊したことの効果が出る。行軍の速度は2の速度だ。連中は必ず2渡しにもたつく。2を離れて兵だけで追ってきても補給なしだ。そんな行軍なんて1日が限界だ。分かったか野郎ども。分かったら歩け。
その1日を生き延びられる保証はねえ。
あ、そう。ならここでお別れだ。 俺は急ぐので失礼するよ。
All right, and they make their move, I guess. Is it all of them now? I thought it was just a part of them. I mean, he expected that. So what game is he playing now? That's the question. Valhalla. Okay, let's run it back real quick. Let's talk about it. Yeah. That is a crazy feeling, isn't it? To have known somebody for so long, especially if they were a person who was very close to you, who maybe understood you, supported you. To think that for the prince, Ragnar was probably his only social support system, right? Him being good-natured as he is, but also sickly, right? And only having the support of this one, I think Ragnar was kind of a court advisor or general or something, or warden maybe even. I'm not quite sure of his official position, but at the very least he was a surrogate father for him. Always having enemies at the royal court. Even your own father neglecting you and seeing you as weak. Having talents that are more on the female side, maybe, at least in terms of what was regarded back in the day. And then just having this one person who believes in you and supports you and is interested in you and your interests, your skills, your abilities, values them. And at the same time, of course, be that emotional support system that you needed, especially growing up, to actually develop properly as a person and not fall into despair, depression, self-hatred, right? Low self-esteem, although he still probably has low self-esteem. So there's this delicate balance that at the same time Asala did see fell out of balance, where he was like, the problem is now that the prince is grown up, Ragnar is still treating him like a child, and that is enabling him and maintaining the behavior of the prince to be avoidant, to not engage with people directly, to not apply his will, to not push through what he believes in. And I don't know what Asalat hopes the prince is going to be, but I think vaguely, like I don't know specifically what he hopes he's going to be, but vaguely I think he hopes that maybe the prince without Ragnar will be forced to face reality and will develop into somebody who maybe on the one hand is relatively understanding and empathetic, but on the other hand also manages to push through and like push through his will and apply it and lead people, right? Inspire them. Because I think like a lot of historic figures that were very popular but also very like respected were people who were strong on the one hand, right? And were able to actually defend their own interests, but on the other hand had values and virtues that were rather noble. And I think both of that could apply to Canute if he learned to actually dominate a social situation, if he could learn to be strong in negotiations, strong in leading people, but don't lose that aspect of himself that is soft-spoken, that is formal, that is almost like holy in a way, right? Because he is religious too, so there's this element of piety, maybe even, right? This element of a figure that maybe even could remind one of like an Arthurian legend, right? Because we did have that. I think the legend of King Arthur was also a mission, or like a god-given grace, right? Pulling the sword from the stone, defending England against its invaders. The whole mythos is baked in religious and spiritual imagery and holy mission and all of that stuff. So maybe he hopes to build Canute into this kind of symbol that on the one hand will defend his Welsh interests, but also on the other hand maybe be able to lead the Danes down a different path. I don't know how much sympathy or empathy Asalad has for the Danes. I mean, there's like there's an argument to be made how much empathy he has in general, because I do think he understands how the emotions of his men and also like different people work. That's what he needs to be a social manipulator and be as charismatic as he can be, or as he is right now. But I do also believe that he probably doesn't feel the emotion as much, and that is what's called empathy. So maybe Asalad is very high on the spectrum, like, I don't know if it's even a normal spectrum, but I think it's not a disorder because it doesn't hurt him in his life's goals, right? So, but I think Asalad might be very high on psychopathy in terms of the spectrum, or it's Machiavellism, which is also one of the Dark Triad. They kind of overlap a lot, although I think psychopathy has a lack of impulse control that Asalad doesn't show. Asalad does definitely not have a lack of impulse control. He knows, he's very calculated in his moves, he's very unscrupulous, so it would be more along the lines of Machiavellism, I think. Being able to manipulate people, being uncaring, unscrupulous, having a lack of empathy, while at the same time being charismatic, right? There's a lot of overlap between those, the definition of those two, especially if we talk within like personality traits. We're not talking disorders, right? You can see different characteristics of people. You can differentiate between, for example, trait psychopathy or trait psychopathy or psychopathic personality disorder, which would be different things, because in the case of personality disorder, it's a clinical definition. We have a cutoff point at which we're like, okay, if this person is having those values on that, and they additionally have the criteria of, for example, having difficulties in life because of that, like in different like aspects, right? Social life, job, career, whatever, right? Like becoming a criminal and going to prison, all of these things, or if they're suffering from it, right? Because they're unable to do certain things, and this always leads to interpersonal conflicts, right? Conflicts between themselves and other people. So this would be the definition of like, yeah, we have all of these characteristics plus the suffering or just like being hindered in your personal life significantly by it. So there would be a disorder. But then if we see these characteristics on the spectrum of just normal human characteristics and personality aspects, then we can define, okay, how psychopathic is Terminus? How psychopathic am I, right? And I would be somewhere on the spectrum, probably on the lower one, I would assume, but like, and somebody who is maybe less empathetic and has a lot more trouble with impulse control and whatnot, but not to the degree that it's an actual serious issue in their lives. They might be higher on that. So that's a spectrum, and we call that trait psychopathy, because it's a trait, it's a character trait, rather than an actual disorder that we're looking at. And it doesn't have a cutoff point. It's just depending on how high, how intense is actually this specific pattern of personality traits that we have here in you. And we have that for a lot of like different aspects of personality, be that if we look at the grand personality categories that are oftentimes looked at in terms of like the five factors of personality, or like the alternate model to that, which is the hexaco model, which is six personality factors. And that would be, for example, stuff like neuroticism, extraversion, right? And extraversion would be a spectrum all the way from extremely extroverted, right, to extremely introverted. And that's one spectrum. That's one like binary, like not binary, but that's one spectrum that goes from really low, which is introverted, to really high, which is extroverted. Or openness to experience is another one. There's conscientiousness. There is agreeableness. All of these are like big factors of personality. If you look at stuff like psychopathy, it's more like a certain pattern within, like, and you could probably read them on like the big personality traits as well, and kind of like it would be a unique combination of various parts of that. But you would look at that as a trait, and it's like, okay, is this person very psychopathic, or are they barely or not at all psychopathic? So I would assume that Asalite probably rates pretty high on psychopathy and or Machiavellism. Probably the latter more than that, right? Calculatedness and all of that. So I don't know how much he really is seeking somebody that he can follow. I mean, he's talking about a lot about like being like somebody he needs to find or wants to find somebody who is worthy of leading him. I don't know if that's like an actual goal of his, or if he's just telling himself that, or if that's something he's just telling his men. So there's like these differentiations. It's very possible that he just looks for somebody he can prop up as this big symbol, because Asalite himself knows that the way he is, he can be a leader, but he can't be a symbol that's kind of like almost holier and like revered. He can only be somebody who's partially feared and partially respected for his cunning and skill and wit. But he doesn't think he can be that big leader, and maybe he needs somebody who he can prop up and he can manipulate and he can actually influence. Or does he actually seek somebody that impresses him? And then the question is, why Canute? Is it because Canute is so incredibly different from Asalite? His faith, his empathy, the way he grew up, the way he's like maybe also an underdog or something. Asalite himself might identify with this underdog part of Canute, because he himself was also kind of a fish out of water, his mother being kind of, I think, a captive who was then held as a concubine or something. And like maybe he kind of empathizes with that specific part of Canute's history, where he's like, if this boy gets the right guidance, if he gets pushed the right way, he can become somebody who is hard, who is unscrupulous if he needs to, but also can be like that symbol for people. Or if there's like some different aspect of that we don't see yet. But at the very least, it's very interesting how Asalite seems to plan putting Canute up. And obviously it can also just be that Asalite knows he is not a royal, and you do need royal blood to actually be in that super high position where you can influence stuff and become king and have like be that symbol. And he himself knows he's never gonna be that high just because of how he was, like that he was born. I think you would say a bastard or something. But yeah. Yeah, very interesting. I think it's very hard for Canute to come back to that, to kind of recognize that. I think I talked about this in other series as well. He's dumbfounded, right? It's not like immediate, like, crying sadness. I think, like, what he feels now, at least the way his facial expression is and his reaction was to it, feels like he feels this emptiness inside of him. He's like, there's this person that used to be here, and suddenly they're not, and they will never be here again. And I don't know how to feel about that, because there's all of this, like, this concoction of different emotions in there. And my head's spinning, and I'm like, why? Why did this happen? It was so weird, it was so strange, right? A couple of hours ago, he was still here. And then his legs are giving out, which is a very human reaction. I think I really like that aspect, that we include that, right? There's this, like, dumbfoundedness. It's just like he was just here, and he's just thinking about it. He's not paying attention, and suddenly his legs buckle. It's like his entire his entire blood circulation suddenly goes all the way, like his heart rate goes down, and it can't support him standing up again. Standing up in that moment. It's almost like a mini faint, basically, right? He's almost going unconscious, but not really, right? Just his body can't hold that anymore because his blood pressure suddenly drops. He just falls down. Also very interesting how we focus on Thorfinn at that moment, at that specific point. Because, like, it's... I don't know, like... I think Thorfinn still has this disdain for Canute because he thinks he's weak. But maybe Thorfinn also has this disdain of Canute because he sees himself in Canute, right? His child self. So even though Thorfinn was a lot more aggressive and a lot more brutish and rude and like just, yeah, aggressive as a kid, I think that moment he realizes it's kind of like he identifies with that because that was the moment, and maybe also some of the feelings that he had when he lost his father. And I think this is why he also looks down on Canute a little bit, because maybe that was even why he looked down on Canute to begin with, not just because Canute was this kind of guy who was like super shy and like can't really stand up for himself, but also maybe because he saw Canute and his relationship to Ragnar, and he was like, this guy has a father. Not consciously, but subconsciously. It's like, this guy has a father figure that takes care of him, that's here, and he didn't have that because his father died at that moment, right? He got murdered, and he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't get revenge and all of that stuff. And now he sees, or he saw himself in him, and he was like really annoyed that, like, about these different fates. And now Canute loses his father figure, and he looks at him, and he looks kind of almost like he's looking down on him. He's like there's this animosity, which is almost an animosity that he directs towards his own child self, because that's exactly what he sees in this moment, I think. Yeah, shock. I don't know. You don't process stuff like this in a second. Beautiful picture, by the way. Here, I love that. It looks so amazing. I love how this show displays the landscape of England in winter, in summer, in spring, all of that. Right? It's so cool, especially for somebody who, like, I was never in England itself, but I was in Ireland years ago. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful landscape, and I do remember that vividly. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons I am so attached to these displays of nature. But also, I grew up in a very rural environment, so I do have a great appreciation for the woods and nature and just general greenery and beautiful landscapes, because I do think that is something that you don't get to see too often in the city, which is unfortunate. And, well, at the very least, Asalad seems to trust Björn more than his other people, because he knows Björn's probably not gonna betray him. Like, the ties go too deep. We're gonna skip over the scene, honestly, just because it's very, very gruesome. We don't need to talk about that much, like the psychological effects of torture. My guess was this guy's not gonna talk because, first of all, he's been beaten half to death before and he didn't talk. And then Asalad started clipping his fingers off, and after 2 or 3 fingers, he still didn't talk, and went more and more into this you're all gonna burn in hell kind of speech. So I do think, I mean, maybe it's kind of a fallacy, because like it's something I only heard in a movie long ago, but I think it rings really true to me, which is, well, if he really would have talked, he would have probably talked after the first or the second finger. I didn't even hear it. I don't know where I heard it. It could be an enemy as well. I don't know. But I think that kind of rings true to me, right? Because at some point in time, even if it still hurts incredibly, like I don't think we can imagine how much that hurts. But at some point in time, it's just an oversaturation of pain. Your pain receptors are gonna shut off. They're not like, there is a point at which it's not gonna go higher, and you only have so many fingers. I think this is one of the reasons why sleep deprivation and oh god, I hope YouTube is not gonna censor this, because we're talking about TORTURE, and I don't think YouTube likes that. But one of the two of the most effective versions of that are actually sleep deprivation and or water. You know what I mean, right? The thing with water. I'm not forgetting the name. I'm just not saying it because I don't want to mention it in. I don't want to mention it in the YouTube video. But I think that is definitely the case, that those are the most effective, because you don't know when it's gonna end, right? You only have so many fingers, and after those fingers, yeah, you can continue with the nose and whatever, but there's like a limited amount of stuff that can be done until you just pass out from the blood loss. For the water thing, and for the sleep thing, that ain't gonna happen. It can potentially go on for days. And that's the thing. I think pain is the most painful, like, you suffer the most from pain when you don't know when the pain is gonna end. That is the most terrible pain, because you have no idea when it's gonna end. It's like temporary pain that hurts like a bitch, but you know it's gonna end in a minute or 2 or 5. You're good, right? You just have to pass that time. But if you don't know when it's gonna end, it's terrible, because it could go on forever, technically. And I think that is also a factor why he didn't talk. And I mean, he hates these people. They murdered his family and all of that, right? Okay, skip across that. Love that shot. Wanted to highlight that. I think that's a really cool shot. Like, I love these ground up shots anyway. I do some camera work on my own here and there, and I love these because it's such an unusual perspective. You don't see that from like it's something very different from what you have in your normal day to day. It's just how it is. And I think if they're done well, they can be incredibly cinematic. Canute protesting because he doesn't want to leave, and he's like, it's interesting because he starts to default into like child mode, I feel like, right? He's just calling Ragnar's name. He keeps calling it. He's like, if I scream loud enough and hard enough and long enough, at some point they're gonna listen to me. And this is when he gets the absolute bitch slap of the century, which, holy shit. And I don't know what that's gonna do with him. Right? I think the idea of like Asalad is to snap him into reality, and that was effective, I think. But if I was Canute, see, that's the thing. If I was Canute, my personality, that's different. I would have some seething anger inside of me that would fester till the time when the moment is opportune and I can stab Asalad in the back. And I would do it, but I'm not so sure about Canute. It could go either way. Right? He's still pretty young, so he can develop in any direction. And one direction he can develop in is he snaps out of it here. He doesn't remember it too long. Obviously, he doesn't like Asalad, but he'll adapt to the situation and take his role and do his thing, and he'll forgive because he is who he is. Or this is a crossroads for him. The moment he snaps out of it, but he'll remember that moment. And way down the line, it might be Asalad's downfall. It could go either way, really. Like, the possibilities are there. And we might not like what Canute develops into based on what Asalad is doing with him. Even if it serves Asalad's goals right now, it might bite him in the back later on. I feel. The cruelty of Asalad is incredible. But I think it's interesting. He could have killed them here and I would have expected them. But he chose a balance between fear and leadership, right? Because there's a difference. You don't lead through fear. Fear can only get you so far, and he decided, okay, in this moment, it doesn't help me if I kill them. Because then they're gonna run to Thorkel anyway. And Thorkel doesn't appreciate the traitors. He's like, look, better they're dead than with us because they would betray us as well. And that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Asalad sees the betrayal coming while the prince is not sulking, I want to say, because that makes it sound immature. He is processing his emotions, and we don't know what's going on inside of him. And I think it's gonna come to a head in a few episodes, but for now he is processing. And he is, I guess, sad, depressed, frustrated, and doesn't really know what to do. But there will come the time when he has to make a decision, and when he probably will make a decision. I wonder what role Thorfinn will play in that, though. Okay. Can I say, like, this man is crazy? This man is insane. He's defying the laws of physics. This guy is he is a myth come to life, right? This is like the giant, the actual giant probably, who beats entire armies on his own, like in the stories. Because I mean, in the end, Vinland Saga is a story, right? It is kind of a story in its own way. It's a myth, it's a fable, basically. I do feel like very grounded, but still a fable. Of like heroic deeds of Valhalla, like tales of Valhalla. It feels like that. That a lot of this stuff that happens in there is true, right? Not really, but like is like plausible. But we do have these elements that you would tell over a fire and be like, Thorkel, he was a giant, a monster of a man. He could throw a spear for 3 kilometers, like stuff like that. Dynamic shots, and they're being betrayed here. I didn't think it would be all of them, but apparently it's all of them. So let's see how that turns out for them. And what plan Ocelot has to get away with the prince. Because he definitely does have that plan. He set it up beforehand. He was like, you all go on that cart, right? If the moment comes, save the prince. Alright, next episode. Good shit. Alright, Vinland Saga. Season 1, episode 17 starts in 3, 2, 1. Well, let's go. I guess Ears is still on their side, or maybe not. Alright, we got a little recap. This man is literally 3 times the size of any normal soldier.
あ、そうならここでお別れだ。俺は急ぐので失礼するよ。
Is it now? The friar's still drinking. I can't. Dude, I can't. Bro's like, you wanna murder me? Fine, let me have a drink first.
チンピラども。抜けたいやつは黙ってそこの川でケツ洗ってトルケルの前に並べりゃいい。それで済む話だろうが。
トルケルのご所望は王子のケツだ。なあ、アシュラッド。長い付き合いだ。殺したくない。王子を置いて消えてくれ。
Respectable. Respectable. All right.
アバロン
Ooh, Avalon.
それって土地の名前
Yes.
そう楽園の
Therian legends again.
偉大なる祖アルトリウス公は
Artorias.
彼の地におられます
で
Oh, is that...
アルトリウス公って大昔の将軍なんでしょ
Is that Ocelot?
今も生きてるの
He looks a little bit like Thorfinn, honestly.
大海の遥か彼方妖精たちの住まう常春の島ですそこはうつしおの死や老いとは無縁の世界
Everlasting
彼
Spring.
はそこで戦の傷を癒しておられるのです傷が癒えればアルトリウス公は私たちのもとへ戻ってきてくださいます私たちを苦しみから救うためにその時が来たらそなたは公にお仕えしなさいあのお方こそ誠の王にして戦士
A true king. Does he believe Canute could be this person?
剣となりていつの日か
お別れに話してもいいかな。
無駄だ。
お前らとは今日まで本当に長い付き合いだった。共に笑い、共に飲み、共に多くの修羅場をくぐり抜けてきた。
Shared joy, shared suffering.
今まで話したことはなかったがな。俺は お前らと過ごしてきたこの十数年間、
Is he gonna open up about his origin?
お前らのことが心底嫌いだった。
Ooh.
豚にも劣る暗愚なデンジンどもよ。
くそ、王子を抑えろ。カルフィー。
I don't think this is gonna be his last stand. What's happening? There are like 3 or 4 people. Are they really gonna take them all down? Holy shit, Thorfinn just had like 6 people in 2 seconds. This guy's insane. Alright, so what happens here?
さすが俺の手下。状況判断が的確だぜ。さてと。参ったね、こりゃ。
1v20?
日頃の資金が足りなかったようだな。
Oh, is Thorkel gonna help him? Because he's like, I'm always for the underdogs.
なんか揉めてんな、あいつら。
仲間はあれだよ。こういう時にはよくある話さ。
だっせ。近頃死に惜しむ奴らばっかだぜ。
実に消す。
He wants his fight.
俺様抜きで喧嘩を始めるとは。
そういうこと？
バズろう、バズろう。
He is so single-minded. Thorkel is just like, fight, fight, fight. I wanna fight. Don't dare deprive me of my fight.
何やってんだあのハゲ。止まれビョル、話を聞け。
そう言われて止まるバカだと思うのかよ、この俺が。
よく考えろビョル、王子の使い方に俺ら全員の生き死にがかかってるんだぞ。無駄だアトリー。ギョルンはアシュラットの一の子分だ。説得やるしかねえんだ。
ああよ、よく分かってんじゃねえか。アシュラットは俺を信じて王子を預けた。その俺から王子を奪うなら死ぬ気で来い。腰抜けだわ。ああいや、だから直接俺に来いって言ってんの。馬やめろ、馬は。
Oof. I mean, I guess they're too smart for that. Goodbye, Atli.
トルフィンが逃げるぞ。カマラ、持ってけ。おい王子、生きてるか。無茶すんじゃねえよてめえ。王子、考えろ。おい、生きてた。よし、引き返すぜ。
Of course. Of course he's still alive. It's mushroom time.
生きてたかビョル。そのキノコ。
まとめて帰れ。団体でバルハラまで案内するぜ。
くさくさ、世話焼かせやがって。あのハゲ、俺が殺すまで死ぬんじゃねえぞ。アシュラット。
Thorfinn's too focused on that shit. Wonder if Asalad actually countered on that.
やれやれ。投資は取りたかねえもんだ。このアシュラット様が たかが50人の包囲を抜けられんとはな。
There's still things he needs to do. Oh, that is sick! He just poked his eyes. Oh, that's gonna knock the breath out of you, though.
Yeah, すまんね。大きな声出しちゃって。さあ、おいで。おじさん、もう怒ってないから。東側のやつ下がれ。流れ矢に当たるぞ。出たよ、飛び道具。
They're using ours like that Boromir Urukai scene.
だったらなんだ、死に損ない。いいのか、さすがの俺も死んじゃうぞ。知ったことか。ビョルンとトルフィンは手だれだ。追っ手を返り討ちにするかもよ。そうなったら王子確保のために俺が必要だろう。俺を人質にしておけばビョルンのやつは俺と王子を交換するために必ず戻ってくる。俺が生きていれば。
He's stalling for time. Is he hoping for the chaos of Thorkel coming in? Ouch. I mean, no vital organ was hit, so...
アシェラッド、あんたそんな必死な男じゃなかったろ。いつもなら勝ちの薄い戦からはさっさと手を引くだろうが。
Yeah, if people don't betray him.
王子のために命を懸けるんだ。褒美と一緒に赤穴に入るつもりかよ。
俺はもう年でな。満足に働ける時間は残り少ない。さすがにもう待てなくなったのさ。誠の王がアバロンからお戻りになられるのな。
わけのわからんこと。もういい。踏んじまれ。
And... Yep.
よう、楽しんでるかい、お兄さんたち。狩猟のアシェラッド中のはドイツだい。ぜひ嫁にかかりたいんだが。困るな。お約束のない方、ちょっと。
Alright, halfway. I thought we were like tuning out. Also, sorry for like being so silent, but Thorkel is gonna slaughter them.
やっぱでかいな。近くで見ると。
He's gonna be angry he doesn't have his fight.
俺はトルグリムってんだ。抵抗はしねえ。話を聞いてくれ。
Yeah.
大将、王子がいませんぜ。
そうなんだ。それを今話そうと思ってたんだ。俺たちはあんたに王子を引き渡そうと思ってたんだが、こいつ狩猟のアシュラッドが王子を逃がしちまって。だが安心してくれ。手だれを
Betrayed their leader. Yeah, he's gonna like just be like, whatever, dude. You're trash.
オーディンの名にかけて必ず捕まえる。その後の切り札もあるんだ。ちょっとおい。
あんたがアシェラッドか。なかなかの知恵者のようだな。ところでトルフィンが見当たらねえんだけどさ、あんたが切っちまったのか。切っちゃいねえよ。あいつは王子の護衛につけた。この反乱には加わってねえ。そうかい。それを聞いて安心したぜ。よし、待たせたな、チンピラども。アシェラッド以外はやって。
Yes, I knew it. I knew it.
話が違うぞ、トルグリム。
おい、おめえら獲物を拾いな。最後くれ戦士らしくしろよ。早く俺おめえらのために言ってんだぜ。丸腰で死んじゃバルハラに行けねえだろうがよ。
They're shaking in their boots. Yeah, I mean, this is a slaughter.
よしよし、こうでなくちゃ。
待ってくれ、トルケル。いいのかよ。俺たちを殺したら王子は手に入らねえぞ。
Oh, he will.
大丈夫、自力で捕まえるから。
Yes.
お前の斧かかってこいよ。戦士ならスカーッと気持ちよく死んでみろ。同情するよ、トルグリム。心が。
黙れ。何もかもてめえのせいだ。
It's kind of your fault, dude. You betrayed him.
トルグリムよ、お前はもう死ぬんだよ。絶対に死ぬんだよ。
He is crazy.
だったらかっこよく戦って死のうや。なあ、手伝ってやるからさ。さあ、来いよ。ほら、来い。
He's like, dude, this is not how it works.
ああ、これはいかん。ちょっとプレッシャーかけすぎたか。ダメだこりゃ。中身が抜けてっちまった。もしもーし。
I mean, he's kind of somewhat won the gamble. He could. That's insane because Thorfinn can actually change the game. He's actually punching a horse. What the fuck is this man? I didn't think he was that much of an idiot. Yeah. Oh, don't underestimate him. You should have said that, but yeah. Oh, this is gonna be next episode, isn't it? He is itching. He is itching for that fight. Yeah, I thought so. This ED is perfect. Especially with the imagery too, it's so cool. Drown in what? Drown in anger. Drown in sorrow. Bloodlust. I know no one's there, which is an insane line. Alright, I didn't expect this to go exactly like that, but I knew it was going down, so fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, I think we can skip over this. We'll go here. Another Aselat flashback, and not even his last one because he's still alive. Incredibly good shading on this, right? With the dark side of his face over here, but a lot of his face is in the light, open and innocent, and hurt and vulnerable. So, and she's pretty out of it. She's suffering. She's probably malnourished and completely. I think like she was cast away, right? Like that was the story. And she's telling him about Avalon, right? myths of the English, British, Celtic continent, right? The fairies and Avalon and Artorias, who got the sword from the Lady of the Lake, and all of those stories, right? He's mending his wounds, the search for the Holy Grail. I love these stories because it's like it's something you grow up with anyway, right? Like through cultural osmosis, Arthurian legend is something that everybody kind of in the Western Hemisphere gets to know what that is all about, and gets little snippets of, even though maybe we don't get to know everything of it. But even like highly modern Western media feature it regularly. And what a story, right? What a story, with the leader of the Britons saving Britain from certain doom, all of this stuff. And he remembers that in what could be his last moments, at least, right? At least he recognizes it as such, I think, and this is why he has these flashbacks. Maybe he felt that before. Maybe he felt this doom coming. All the way back when we saw the first flashbacks of his. That incredibly powerful scene at night, at full moon, when Thorfinn and him are standing on that hill. And he's talking about how the Romans were here, and even they went. And how times are changing, and how Ragnarok is near. How very wrong he is. But maybe Ragnarok, or similar tellings, right, of the world's end, are not really tellings of the actual end of the world. It's more the telling of the passing of an age, right? That things are moving on and something big is happening, and the tides will shift. And this is what moves people, right? And he feels like either, no matter if it's like personal or if it's the world in general going under, there is this sense of his time drawing to a close. And this is what makes him hurry, makes him impatient. That's what he's been saying, right? I've grown impatient for this leader to arise. And maybe he wanted to create one himself. And he saw that opportunity over there, and he was like, I need to seize it. This is deeply woven into his own, like, being. Early childhood memories, a lot of trauma, most certainly, suffering. And hatred, as he says. He hates the Danes. And he comes out with it, and he's truthful about it. He's like, yes, maybe in my moments of possible death, I can just say it. I don't hate you for who you are specifically, but I hate you for what you represent in my personal history, right? This is why he hates the Danes, because of the fate of his mother. And we have Thorfinn is insane. It is crazy how quickly he just disposes of people. Like, that's why I said, like, him challenging Thorkel, even if he doesn't win, don't underestimate him. And Asalad was like, I knew he was dumb, but he's like, he said like a mouse fighting a bear, and you could also say he's basically David fighting Goliath, right? Literally. And yeah, Thorkel sees that, he's like, what is this bullshit? You're gonna start fighting without me? I want a fight. This is all his personality. It's like, fight. Not all his personality, right? We do see parts of his personality, which is, if somebody's a traitor, they're probably gonna betray me as well, so better get rid of him, right? I feel like Thorkel is very honor-bound. I haven't seen anything yet that makes him seem dishonorable, right? He wants a fair fight. And sometimes he is like, right, just like, he knows he can kill somebody because they're no match for him. But he's like, okay, that's still a fair fight. I'm sending him to Valhalla. That's his understanding of like what's fair and what's not. But as far as I'm concerned, I think like, as far as I remember, he's always meeting people head on. And if people like betray their own, he's like, I have no use for you, even if you would join me. And I don't know if that's just out of calculation of being like, they're gonna betray me as well, probably. Or if it's also just because he's like, this is like dishonorable to him. I mean, he's technically betraying his own as like the Danish people, but like I don't think he does feel any like loyalty there. He's like, okay, we're all fighters, we're all like warriors that will go to Valhalla, and if we gain glory in battle, that's that, and that's just our like that's his personal take on the Danish culture. So he's like, I'm gonna go for the underdogs because it's gonna be more challenging and they might be able to win, right? So we go in and we fight tooth and nail, and it's gonna be glorious, and either I will die and gain a lot of fame in Valhalla, or I will kill you all and we will win, right? That's his way of living life. And it's very straightforward. Also very funny moment of like Björn being like, yeah, right, attack me, go ahead. And then they're like going for the horse. He's like, no, wait, I didn't want you to be actually thinking about this. I didn't want you to have a brain. But the calculation doesn't work, right? They're like, oh, we got the prince, and then Björn's like, let me eat some mushrooms. You're like 5 people or like 10 people. I can take you. Because like I think Björn might be even a match for Asalad when it comes to pure fighting strength. I do think that Asalad is probably the one who fights more clever, so he might have the edge if it's like one-on-one, but I think they're like he's pretty ahead of Asalad when it comes to raw strength and maybe even skill in terms of the sword and axe. Axe definitely, sword, I don't know, right? But Asalad definitely fights like he fights like he is a knight, basically. He's not like in terms of the honor thing, just in terms of like how the looks and how it looks, this last stand that he's having. And even then later on when he gets shot down and he gets up and he kneels on his sword. That is a very we got some decent animation here. He's got a very good armor plate, thankfully. But that is crazy, right? Like they displayed that pretty well, how the breath gets knocked out of you from something like that, right? Because like you hit somebody on the back with something so heavy, it's gonna and you're gonna have to take a breath again. Yeah, that is crazy. I don't even know if I can show that on YouTube. And then they're like, it's too dangerous, let's just shoot him from afar. And he's like, really? These motherfuckers. These motherfuckers. Fucking cowards. He dies for the shield, it doesn't work. Yeah. That's what I mean, right? Look at that. That is... I do wonder if he kind of felt like... If we don't see it, right? So probably he didn't, but I wonder if like a passing thought went to Thor's and his death moment. Because it like really feels like that. There's no way out, basically, in this moment. Because I genuinely think that Asalad didn't think that Thorkel would arrive in time and actually just be like, okay, I'll leave you alive and everybody else die. And I think like obviously he would also not have expected Thorfinn to come back and be like, he is mine, leave him to me. The facial expressions of Thorkel are thoroughly entertaining. Like, this is an intense man. And really crazy for everybody who is not in that mindset, right? They're like, the fuck? We said we would join you. We'll give you the prince. Like, we can take him ourselves. Shut the fuck up, dude. And Asalad, he he is intimidated, but he's also like holding his ground. And I think like Thorkel respects that. He's like, you look like a clever fellow. And he looks him in the eye, and Ocelot's like grinning a little bit, and he's like, obviously he's in a really bad position, but I think Thorkel is a really good, or I don't know if he's a good, but he's a decent judge of character. And we have that giant. That is such a moment. He's like, I'm gonna send you to Valhalla. I'm here to help you out. He's like, oh. Intimidating aura. 2 times as big as him. 2 big axes. And guy's just overwhelmed. There's nothing he can do. He just drops the axe and checks out. I don't think something like that doesn't happen. I mean, maybe he's disassociating. Possibly. Right? He's not here anymore. Fair, right? Thorkel just traumatizing people by looking at them. And now we come here. Angle is great as always. I love that. It's really cool. That's a cool angle. Look at that. Dynamic angle, him coming for it, and Thorkel's like, yeah, now we're talking. Here's Thorfinn, I wanted a rematch. The interesting thing is, like, I don't know if Thorkel expected Thorfinn to dodge that one, but, you know. Boom, right into the horse again. Crazy as all hell. But he's not impressed. He's like, he's mine to kill. You better leave him alone. And Thorkel's like shocked. He's like, what the fuck? But he's like, now we're talking. Now I get my fight. Because I'm like, no, I'm not giving it away. And they're all impressed by how Thorfinn is not afraid of Thorkel, despite having clashed with him. Intense looks. A duel for the possession of Asalad. I wonder how that changes the power dynamic. Because technically, like, Asalad was absolutely at Thorkel's mercy. And now, supposing that Thorfinn wins this one, I don't know if he does. We'll see, right? Like, he's probably gonna not... I can only imagine this to probably be another tie. Right? So, I think Thorfinn's gonna be better than he was when they had their first duel. He learned. But I also think that Thorkel's not gonna die here. So we might have a standstill. And then Thorkel might decide to be like, okay, you can have Asalad. Or maybe Asalad gets away in some form. Oh, or he dies. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how that works out. I mean, Asalad's band is no more. So we have Canute, we have Björn, who certainly is not gonna die off screen. Asalad and Thorfinn, and that's all there is to it. So I do wonder how this journey is gonna go on, but yeah. I was like, that's what I was hoping to hear. And obviously he did know Thor's, as we've seen in the first episode when he was actually introduced. When they had their Scrabble. The last of his warrior's blood. Right? That's his chance at a rematch with Thor's legacy. Closest he gets probably to a duel with Thor's. Very cool shot as well. Thorkel being in the foreground, really big. I mean, he's already big, but really big, dominating the screen, taking over a lot of space on the screen, which means he's intimidating. He's in the powerful position here, and we're looking down the line at Thorfinn, relatively center, but opposed to him, right, diagonally on the screen. And we kind of pan over, and we're kind of getting to like we're slowly teasing that start of the clash when they like pan over and then they go head to head basically. But we're not doing it because cliffhanger. Yay! That is, I mean, that's how it is. That's just how it is. All right, that was Vinland Saga. Season 1, episode 17. I might do 18 and then but I'm gonna have a short pause here. I still possibly want to record one other series tonight, so there's that. Yeah, that was Vinland Saga episode 17. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel and all that good stuff. And I will see you in episode 18, hopefully. Yeah. Hello, welcome back to Vinland Saga, episode 18 of season 1. This is a doozy. We are starting probably. I'm just seeing it. We're probably starting with the OP. It looks like it, or maybe we have like a quick cold open. But yeah, and we're starting right into the Thorfinn versus Thorkel fight. If it happens, I don't know. Maybe they're cucking us. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I don't know. We talked a lot about it. This is probably, possibly, maybe a part of a video anyway, so, or it's an extra video, I don't know. We'll start right in, just 1 minute straight. Let's get into it. I have the episode up and ready to go right here. If you do like this channel, please, after you've watched this, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel. Also remember, we got like the incomplete version here, we got the PIP version on the Patreon if you're interested in that, and also just like the complete versions of all the other stuff that I'm doing on Patreon. Oftentimes early access as well, so check that out. And without any further ado, we are going to jump into this episode. Ooh, and yeah, we're jumping right in. Oh, that's the scene from the OP. But is this realistic? We have seen Thorkel actually using his own body as a shield. And doing, like, making decisions that wouldn't be rational, just to get him off guard. He does. Whoa, we're learning more. Give him a good fight. He's got so much spunk. Ouch.
おかしいか。トルフィンは俺の認めた戦士だ。笑うな。トールズは俺より強かった。自分がまさしくトールズの子だと証明してみせろ。
I mean, he's not grown. He is not as a song of defiance, right? Defiance against the social order of this time. Defiance against the fate that was laid upon him. I understand that. It's really cool.
死人に戻ってきやがって。王子はどうなってやがる。
Oh, God Rays showing us how Bjorn's fight is going.
近くで戦の声がする。
Oh, he's awake.
もういい加減にしてくれ。他にすることはないのか。静かにしてくれ。目を開けたくないんだ。このまま寝ていたい。
I feel that.
このままずっと。
He's the locks in his hair. He's still grieving, right? Ragnar looks really old
お
here.
前生きて。これは夢なのだな、ラグナル。
A dream or a vision.
お別れを申し上げに参りました。
Oh, the stylization
僕を残して。
and the music.
僕一人
White
で
trees.
こんな世界で生きてゆけという
White trees have big symbolism in Japan, if I remember
生きていけると思
correctly.
うのか。
Not just Japan, I think, right?
私も
White is dead.
あなた様の教育係として失格でした。
Teacher,
あ
instructor.
なた様をヤルルとしてではなく、ごく普通の、それこそ農民が我が子を育てるがごとくにして参りました。
Isn't that how it should be?
それが陛下のお望みではないと知りつつ、お許しください。
何がいけないのだ。お前は父王陛下より僕自身の望みを汲んでくれた。
Yeah. He was there for him when nobody else was, not even his father.
おけになどバレたくなかった。
Is this one of these moments, huh?
お前の子に僕がお前の子に生まれていたらどんなによかったかと。
殿下、嬉しゅうございます。殿下、
行かないで。お前が好きなんだ。
It already happened, though. Can't turn back the hands of time.
失って知ることがございます。あなた様はすでにお気づきでしょう。
ラグナル、
私めのことは夢でございます。
待て。
もはや目覚める時が来たの
いや
です。
ラグナル、
Time to wake from this dream.
戻れ。戻れ。
お健やかに、殿下。
ラグナル。
Rare are those that get what they ask for. Bjorn is a crazy berserker.
お体、痛みはございませんか。あの者たちは殿下を得ようと争っているのです。あなたは勝者のものになります。
神父であろうそなた、争いを止めぬのか。
止めようがありますか。死にたい者は死なせてやればよいの
Let
です。
those who seek death find them. Interesting approach. He's not wrong, right?
夢を見た。ラグナルの夢だ。別れを告げた。 死んでまで律儀な男だ。もうこの地上に私を愛してくれる者はいなくなった。
Yeah.
それは大いなる悟りです。だが惜しい。
God.
ラグナル殿のあなたへの思いは愛ですか？
Okay.
彼はあなたの安全のために62人の善良な村人を見殺しにした。
Oh, he wants to say that isn't love.
殿下、愛とは何ですか？
How do we define it?
しかしよ、手応えなかったな、こいつら。
つえ奴らにお目にかかるのは難しいよ。いつまで経ってもバルハラに行けやしねえ。
まだ大社の決闘続いてんのか？
まさか秒殺だろ。
ならなんであんなに盛り上がってんだよ。
Go and look, I guess.
俺見てくるわ。なあ、俺も。おいおい、どうなってんだよ。やっちめ大将、てめえこそいけんな。
He's drawn blood, I guess.
マジかよ、あの大将が。
やられっぱなしじゃねえか、あんな小僧に。
いいぞトルフィン、お前にかなうやつは俺の手下に5人といないだろ
う。前と同じ鎖片びらか。手足の剣を狙うのは。
And that's hard because you expose yourself.
ロンドンでは急所狙いで踏み込んでいい。
I mean, to be fair, you could slice his arteries at the hand. But it's hard to go get there, right? Because of the weapons.
強いが、お前の剣はなんかこう普通って感じ？戦士として完成するには何かが足りない。
ならそいつ相手にコテンパンのてめえは何なんだよ。
そうさ、俺にも足りない。トールズのこのお前からならそれを学べると思ってたんだが。なあ、トルフィンよ、お前はどう思う？本当の戦士って
What does make a true warrior?
なんだ？
愛とは何かだと。ラグナルは私を愛していなかったというのか。
Questions at the heart of us.
はい。
What is love? What is a warrior?
私の方だ。ラグナルに愛がないのなら、正しく愛を体現できる者はどこにいるのだ？
そこにいますよ。ほら。彼は死んで、どんな聖者よりも美しくなった。
That's a very twisted way of looking at
愛
it.
そのものと言っていい。彼はもはや憎むことも奪うこともしません。彼はこのままここに打ち捨てられ、その肉を獣や虫に惜しみなく与えるでしょう。
That's not love, though.
雨風にさらされるがまま、
That's just peace.
それで一言半句の文句も言いません。死は人間を完成させるのです。
But is it just dying, or is it how you die? I mean, all of this is subjective, of course.
わからんか。まあ気にすんなよ。そんなには期待してなかった。
姑息な手よ。愛の本質が死だというのか。
はい。
ならば親が子を、夫婦が互いを、ラグナルが私を大切に思う気持ちは一体何だ？
差別です。王にへつらい奴隷に鞭打つことと大して変わりません。
He says the fact that you don't love people equally.
他の誰よりも大切な人だったんです。
means it's discriminating against everybody else.
命よりも彼のあなたに対する心弱い思いは差別です。
I guess that is a pious man's answer, right? Love is supposed to be for everybody.
そうか。分かってきた。
In that sense, what we understand as love might be selfish.
霧が晴れていくようだ。
あれだもう見切られてるぞ。
Is this gonna be a death by 1,000 cuts kind of deal?
まだ浅い。分かってきた。この雪が愛なのだな。
そうです。
あの空が、あの太陽が、吹きゆく風が、木々が、山々が。なのになんということだ。世界が神の御業がこんなにも美しいというのに、人間の心には愛がないのか。
私たちがこのような生き物になってしまった。
The Garden of Eden.
遠い祖先が神に背き、罪を犯したせいだと言われています。私たちは楽園から追放されたのです。
おい、どこ行ったの？おい、俺って。
足のバネで衝撃を殺したか。やるね。
That's pretty high. I'm not gonna lie.
あそこだ。すげえ。あれ死んだろ。さすが大将。
くそ。いよいよ晩作尽きたか。
Oof. Oh, he's got quite a few stabs in his back. Is he gonna survive that?
決着がついたようですね。だが、いけませんな。あの者は正気を失っている。殿下、お逃げになった方がよいでしょう。
I don't think he will.
正気。正気の人間がこの世のどこにいるのだ。皆同じ。皆同じだ。誰もが等しく愛することを知らぬのであろうが、生の意味を知らず、死の意味を知らず、己の戦う意味さえも知らぬ。
殿下。
It's your fault, my dude.
もういい。もううんざりだ。
Alright. So this is the moment.
地を得て代わりに失ったもの、最も大切なもの、そしてそれは生ある限り 私たちの手には入らぬもの。手には入らぬ。それでも追い求めよというのか。天の父よ。
Anger. But also resolve, I guess. Is it anger at himself? Well, at humans, I mean.
楽園を追われし者よ。そなたたちの罰の苦しみは死より他に終わらせる術がないのか。我々の生は試され耐え続けるためにのみあるというのか。天の父よ、あなたの与える試練ではこの者の魂は救えぬ。
And he witnesses a miracle.
父よ、もはやあなたの救いは求める。あなたが与えてくれぬなら、我々の手でこの地上に
Here on Earth.
再びの楽園を。
Okay, that's an interesting twist of it all.
王子。
王子、無事か。やめんかバカ者。これ以上無益な争いをするな。
無益？
深手玉、大丈夫か。
くそ、なかったぜ。
動くな。腹をやられている。ビリバルド、この者の手当てをしておけ。私は散った馬を捕まえる。そなた、手伝え。
殿下、私は奇跡を見ました。
黙って手当てにかかれ。
おい、王子、どこ行く気だよ。あんたはトルケル軍に引き渡す。でないと俺の仲間が。
元よりトルケルのところへ行くつもりだ。連中にそりを借りねばその怪我人は運べぬ。
なんか寝言抜かすんじゃねえぞ。何のためにズタボロになったと思ってんだボケ。てめえがトルケルに捕まっちまったら意味ねえんだよ。
意味だと。
What does it even mean?
そなたたちの戦いのか。こんな戦いに意味などない。だからもう死ぬな。戦士たちよ、私の家臣になれ。戦わねばならぬ時と相手を教えてやろう。そなたたちの戦いに生と死に意味を与えてやろう。それが王の務めだ。
Rebirth, huh? Wow. Okay. That is crazy. It was a bigger moment for Canute than for Thorfinn. I expected it also to be a big moment for Thorfinn, but it's just a stone. It's just a stepping stone on Thorfinn's road. For Canute, it was the crossroads. We are going back. Okay, so we're not going through this very slowly. There's a lot of like cool scenes, I think. We have like some CGI in here, which is, I think, just enough for it to not disturb the rest of the animation and the acting. I really like how we're going about this. We have the same dynamic we had before, right? Heavy strikes being dodged very, very well. And Thorfinn is a lot more careful here now. He's a lot more skilled than he used to be. He really remembered how this thing was going. Some really cool animation going here. Let me just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Yeah, all of this is on 2s. I'm wondering if we're changing that right here. So all on 2s. That was a quick one. Let me just get that back for a second. We're alternating between 1s and 2s here. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. I think Thorfinn is earning a lot of respect from Thorkel's men just for being so tenacious. And we're getting a little bit of info of what the relation between Thorkel and Thors was, and Thorfinn's learning a little bit more about Thors himself, actually, that he might have not known. Play along. It's so funny because he's so bold, he's so like, I'm not gonna go easy on you and whatnot, and everybody's laughing, but Thorkel's like, take that seriously. Great shading on this frame. He's like, dude, this guy's a warrior. Respect him. Stop being so dismissive of him, because he is not underestimating him, and that's great. That's why he wanted to fight him, because he's a great fight. But also, supposedly, because he wants to find out something he's missing. Which is super interesting, right? He feels like a duel against Thors, or maybe against his son, right, as a surrogate in this case, would have gotten him this revelation that he still feels like he's missing, like he's lacking. It's very interesting how we go into this, like, this Canute dream, and Canute has such a, well, first of all, cool shading, second of all, he has such, like, the locks that he has, it's almost, it feels like he's some kind of like Valkyrie, or he's some kind of, I think like the gods are often drawn this way, like very pretty, even for like, even the male gods oftentimes in different mythologies. He looks like, I don't know, like a deity basically, lying there. And Ragnar looks old, really old. Like almost to symbolize this is the end of his time. And we see these scenes and we're like, he wishes he was born his son, because then all of this wouldn't have fallen on him. And I found this scene before Canute even starts crying, I found that incredibly profound, just by the sheer nature of it. It's like, what's wrong of being like raised like a true son, like a simple child. I never asked to be born a prince, right? It's like, you don't ask for these moments. Every time like a scene like this comes up, and especially when it's well done, I get reminded of one of my favorite scenes of Lord of the Rings, which is this spiel around, I wish I was never born in these times. I wish the ring would had never come to me. When Frodo says that in the Mines of Moria. And Gandalf holds this speech where he's like, well, few people actually do wish they were born where or how they were born. Few people who are in these situations that have these great burdens that are placed upon them, these great fates that rely on them, really wish to do that. And I think that, I mean, it's not always the case, but in many cases, a true leader that isn't being tempted just by the mere idea of power is oftentimes the leader that doesn't want that power in the first place. That would have been way more content with a simple life. I think we have that in Canute here. And maybe Asalat actually has seen that in him. Or maybe not. And he's just going for a gamble because he's desperate. We don't know. Asalat is not like... He's very, very clever, but he's not omniscient. He doesn't know everything and hasn't planned for everything, right? He's just going by his guts. He's got a very good, like, he can kind of clock people pretty easily. Maybe he saw something in him that he didn't even know himself what it was, but he was like, that might be my chance, that might be my gamble. And this is when he wakes up to blood and violence. You will belong to the victor. Very harsh reality. And we talk about love, and like I said, the prior has a very religious, a very monk-like, a very priest-like view at what love actually means to him. And it is love to him, and to me it seems what he's describing as love is indifference. And that's one way to look at it. I know the other way to look at it is you love everyone the same. And you don't hate, and that would be the truest, purest form of love. Because as soon as you're deciding who you love more than somebody else, you're like kind of getting in that... I mean, I don't think the argument sticks completely, but it makes logical sense to a degree, that he's like, okay, this is discrimination, right? You love somebody more than yourself, and more than everybody else in the world. So technically you are discriminating against yourself and everybody else in the world that you don't love as much as this person. Because you're also making decisions in favor of that person, for the good of that person, purely based on this unequal balance of love that you're giving. You're choosing to give a certain individual more love than everybody else. And yeah, that's like a highly like religious, spiritual way to look at it. Because in like, especially like the modern Christian faith, and even just like when we look at Jesus, right? Jesus, can say that the Jesus myth, basically, it is always steeped in like love thy neighbor, right? And it's meant literally kind of in the sense that Jesus gave love even to his enemies, right? And forgave, like, literally died for the sins of all of humanity. So there's this idea about an equal amount of love being given to everybody and everything. The thing is, I think what the prior sees here is the beauty of nature that doesn't care about anybody more than anybody else. What he doesn't see though is, well, all of the animals, they're the same. They prioritize their own offspring over other offspring. They attack each other for territory, for food, for resources, right? Maybe the purest form of like indifference you can find is trees and everything, right? Snow, trees, all the less the further you go away from what makes humans, right? Being a mammal, having bigger, larger groups, families and whatnot, and hierarchies, the further you go away from it, the more there's indifference, the more there is just balance and equilibrium, and that has a certain amount of beauty to it, I think. At the same time, I do feel like the further you go away from it, the less it really matters what love is. To me personally, at least, right? Because love is inherently a human concept, or an animal concept. Because love exists in animals, but animals probably perceive it differently. But yeah, it is, in a way, it kind of makes the struggle for love futile if you take away the human element. Because then it's easy. It's just your nature. The problem here is the struggle against human nature. The struggle against all of that hatred and all of these negative human emotions, cruelty, hatred. But also just being emotionally cold doesn't make you loving, right? Even if you treat everybody equally, if you treat everybody with little to no regard, then that would mean nothing. I think that's not what Canute is doing, actually. I think even like in his final speech here, we have this grand, and I'm going to skip over this, we're going to come back to that in a second. We have the speech of the prior where he talks about that. No complaints, no hate, no whatever. And the prince has this moment, this revelation where the clouds break and he realizes everything that is around him. It's like a shroud has been lifted from his very being, and the way these shot, like the prior's face being shaded here, and the how he's looking at the sun and how the snow is glinting. All of these impressions, that's incredibly beautiful art that's being displayed here. He has that revelation moment. The prior connects that to his like religious belief, but at the same time you do have kind of almost a loss of innocence moment here, right? Where we have a very religious person that believed in the grace of God and believed in a grander plan, realizes that, yeah, this indifference might be somebody's idea of love, and love is all around us. There's so much beauty in the world, but at the same time, there's all these trials that are given to us, and they don't lead us anywhere. So he decides in this very moment, this is like a change moment. He stands up and he's saying, like, we got expunged from paradise, right? So we're not going to get back what we are looking for. And yes, yet you force us with our own feelings and emotions to actually seek it. And his conclusion is, you're not gonna give it to us, so we have to take it ourselves. I don't know what actions that will inform, but I think like what we're looking at is a way more resolute prince here. Somebody with a mission and a goal and an ideal, a philosophy. The idea that he might need to pave the way for his men to actually see their own little paradise. And if he wants the world to be morally and maybe also just societally the way he wants it to be, right? The way he thinks is just and loving and maybe how he would like the world to be, how he would imagine it to be, then he needs to influence that himself. He needs to actually lead the charge and actually make the world the way it's supposed to be. And I guess this is this awakening moment that we have. And this is a great symbolism with that double image here. He's shaking off the mantle of his past self. And moving on. It's almost like a rebirth moment, like I said, like a let the boy die. Right. Death of innocence. Start of a mission, start of an ideal, maybe start of a dream. I don't know if Asalat has foreseen it the way it is, or if he's just had some wild gamble and was like, I think it's more likely that it was just a wild gamble. He was like, tragedy, whatever, right? Like, Ragnar needs to be removed, and then maybe he could become somebody who's worthy, right? And if not, then, well, he wasn't worthy after all. But his plans are going up in smoke at the moment, but it's still kind of happening, in a way, in a direction that he might have wanted to. So, crazy how that goes sometimes. Okay, that's the big revelation. Obviously, we do have the subplot of Thorfinn's fight with Thorkel, and I think that it was not as big of a moment as I would have expected it to be for Thorfinn. I thought it would be a bigger moment. I think we are asking questions for Thorfinn that will lead him along a way where, a way he wants to be. Or questions that he wants to ask himself down the line, that he will ask himself down the line. What is a warrior? What makes them the way they are? What's a true warrior, right? And like, obviously his father flashes into his mind because that has been the quintessential prototype for him, for a warrior. That's what he grew up to believe. My father is perfect, right? He's a warrior. He's strong, he's capable, he's calm, he's a leader, all of these things. But it's hard to define that and to really find out, is that really the truth? And I think he is kind of, when he's shaking it off and he's like, so you don't know, and he's like, stop trying to mess with me. It's more of a, he feels messed with because he's confused and that kind of stifles his ability to keep his head in the combat, of course. I mean, we have amazing... I mean, not amazing. Like, I've seen better animation, but it's really, really solid, right? I love the rotating camera angles, how we play with perspective and show that he's really holding his own here. But the moments like the time is really like the episode is really dedicated to Canute, and despite my belief, Thorfinn's fight here played a minor role. I wonder how it will go when Canute actually meets Thorkel. Will Thorkel see something in Canute that will make him follow him or let him lead? Or will we have to actually free ourselves of this quasi-hostage situation and get out of there? And how will Canute treat Asalat from now on? That's also a question. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'm gonna look up white trees because I really want to know the meaning of white trees. Okay, so in Japan, it seems to be symbolize elegance, fleeting beauty of life, transience. That's interesting. Transience in the sense of like we have like a dream or vision of Ragnar reaching out from the afterlife. The arrival of spring, very interesting. Probably with the white cherry blossoms, right? Purity, simplicity, renewal. That is an interesting aspect of it. Contrast and natural harmony for white birch trees, for example. The white bark contrasts with the seasons, blending with snow in winter and standing out against greenery in summer. I don't see anything that directly connects. It loosely connects with our themes here. Renewal and new beginnings for the white cherry blossoms, but you don't have cherry blossoms here. I'll eliminate Japan and see what generally symbolism of white trees is. White trees, including species like white birch, white pine, symbolize peace, renewal, longevity, and purity. Okay. They often represent a spiritual connection to divinity, like the Iroquois white pine signify the great tree of peace. In folklore, they embody rejuvenation, while in literature, like Tolkien's White Tree of Gondor, they represent lost heritage, nobility, and stewardship. Okay, interesting. That's an AI answer, by the way, so full disclosure. But I can see that, right? You can kind of like maybe confirm, oh, there's actually a Celtic meaning, maybe. New beginning, rebirth, and cleansing. That makes sense. That's the strongest connection I found now. And North European would be like that the world tree often is white and luminous and whatnot. That's less cosmic order, but that's less what I think this represents in our show right here. But it makes sense that we maybe have beginning, rebirth, cleansing. That makes sense for Canute's scene specifically here, and this rebirth, this new beginning of his persona. Even though obviously we don't change overnight, right? But there is moments in the life of some people where they have some kind of revelation that fundamentally shifts their attitude towards things. That doesn't change their core personality traits, I think, but it changes maybe how they approach certain situations. It changes how they view the world. It changes how they choose to affect the world through their actions. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Canute isn't a completely different person now. He's just determined and has maybe not a clear one, but a rough goal in mind. Maybe an ideal to strive towards, and an idea about creating paradise for him and the people who would follow him, which kind of lines up with the legend of Artorias as well, right? Cool episode. Can't wait to see the next one. Guys, if you did like this video, go give it a like, subscribe to my channel to see more. We got Dungeon Meshi going on as well. We got Frieren going on. We might have ReZero going on. Go check it out. My Patreon does have early access, and it has the pips for all of my reactions, so have fun with that if you want to, if you can spare the pennies. But other than that, I'll see you next time.